Right now, America is dealing with the aftermath of Tyre Nichols' death. And from what I've seen, it doesn't matter whether people are left-wing, right-wing, pro-cop, or anti-cop, almost everyone seems to be on the same page that what happened to Tyre Nichols was a gross overuse of force, which is why it's a positive thing that the officers involved were immediately fired and will now be facing criminal charges. Because of course they have to. This is 2023, is when it comes to the people out there, the race baiters, who are actually trying to blame this incident on white supremacy, and I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. Case in point, let's see what this woman has to say.
Let me just say this really, really quick. Police violence will always, always, always be rooted in white supremacy. Always. There's no exception.
If you guys aren't familiar with the details of the Tyre Nichols case, all 5 officers who were involved in the incident are Black. The police chief in Memphis is Black. Memphis is a majority Black city. There are a lot of different contributing factors that we can talk about here. The increase in crime in Memphis that has led to an increase in police interactions with people. The fact that the defund the police movement has meant that so many different police forces out there have had their budgets cut and are now facing a shortage of personnel. And we should be talking about all of those issues so that stuff like this doesn't happen anymore. However, to say that any police violence is the result of white supremacy, that to me says that you are not a serious person. You're not actually interested in getting to the root of the problem here. You would rather just assign blame to white people and avoid actually talking about hard problems in favor of your left-wing ideology. And by the way, it's not just random people on TikTok who are trying to further the idea that yes, white supremacy is the culprit here. We even had Cori Bush coming out and blaming this death, this tragic death, on white supremacy for what I can only assume are political points. She's quoted as saying, "Charging the officers who brutalized Tyre is not enough. Our country will continue to sanction the taking of Black lives with impunity until it embraces an affirmative vision of public safety and dismantles its racist policing system rooted in enslavement and government control. And let's be clear, merely diversifying police forces will never address the violent, racist architecture that underpins our entire criminal legal system. The mere presence of Black officers does not stop policing from being a tool of white supremacy." So to be clear, here we have someone saying that it doesn't matter that the officers in question were Black, that the police chief is Black, this is a majority Black city. At its core, policing, just as a whole, is the result of white supremacy. And therefore, if we actually care about Black lives in America, we need to start dismantling it. Now, aside from this point just absolutely not making any sense, because let's not forget police forces exist in countries outside of the United States. A lot of police forces internationally use similar methods of restraining subjects that the United States does. This isn't just a white versus Black issue. What also makes Cori Bush's statement just nonsensical is the fact that Black lives are lost in Memphis almost every single day. The crime rate in the city is disgustingly high, but we never hear the left talk about those deaths. Because guess what? They don't fit the narrative of, oh, it's all white supremacy. Because it's a lot harder to blame just regular civilians killing each other on white supremacy. But hey, at least if the people who are doing the killing are cops, even if those cops are Black, I suppose they are trying in their head to do some mental gymnastics to justify it. But it's like, no, ultimately, if you actually cared about Black lives, you would be addressing all of the people in Memphis who have lost their lives due to things like gang violence, right? It's not enough to only bring up murder and death when it fits your political points, because guess what? The vast majority of murders out there aren't committed by the hands of the police. So when you're only talking about it when a cop is responsible, it tells me that you don't care about Black lives, you're simply anti-cop. And I wish that was the end of people trying to blame this on white supremacy, but unfortunately it's not. In a viral tweet thread, someone named Cliff Albright wrote, "In answering why the Tyre Nichols murderers were Black, many have correctly pointed out that Black cops are consistent with the white supremacy of policing. There is an important addendum. Not only are Black cops consistent with racist policing, it is a required feature. Every colonial/oppressive system at some point requires some of the oppressed to participate at a certain level. It gives the oppression the appearance of legitimacy." Now, this tweet really bothered me because here you're not only being anti-cop, which the left has been for some time now, but now you're actually singling out Black officers as being complicit in oppressing fellow Black people. And it's like, we don't need to go any further to prove that these leftists don't actually care about Black people. If they did, they wouldn't ignore all of the Black on Black crime that happens in cities every single day. If they actually cared about Black people, they would not be vilifying Black police officers out there who are simply trying to do their jobs. And although the cops who are involved in the Tyre Nichols case absolutely deserve to be punished, and I hope that Tyre Nichols sees justice, they fortunately are not representative of every cop or every black cop out there in America. Similarly, we also had the likes of Tim Wise say, anyone who says the killing of Tyre Nichols can't be about racism because the cops are also black really doesn't understand how white supremacy or anti-blackness works. And someone else named Chuck Modi wrote, maybe the murder of Tyre Nichols can put an end to the myopic and absurd idea that putting more black cops on the force is some solution. We see over and over how often black cops act just like white ones. You can't diversify your way out of oppression. Hashtag defund the police. I know there are people out there who are going to say, Lauren, you seem to be more upset that people are complaining about white supremacy than you are that Tyre Nichols was actually killed, which I want to be clear is not the case. But here's the thing. If we want to solve a problem, the first step is correctly identifying it. And when people try to shift the blame for Tyre Nichols' death from things like overall crime and just the decay of American cities to something very, very vague like white supremacy and defund the police, we actually end up dragging ourselves further away from a possible solution. So yes, it does matter what was responsible for this horrible incident. And I think trying to throw in racial politics, it's just something that the left is doing in order to distract from the fact that a lot of the crime that is happening in these cities, it is a direct result of their policy specifically. So it's easier to say, hey ho, look, racism again, than confront the truth that no, these bad policies that have been in place for far too long in so many of these urban areas, that is what's responsible for interactions like this.